The year is 1988, and Japan's economy is booming, especially in Kamurocho. Everybody's spending their money left and right without any worries. After all, how long will it take for them to make it all back? Of course, this does lead to loan sharks taking advantage of those who spend too much money. One such loan shark sent rookie Yakuza Kazuma Kiryu of the Dojima family to collect the debt of one of these unfortunate citizens in an unassuming empty lot. Little does he know how this one moment will change the entire course of his life, and little do the people who play this game for the first time know how they'd soon fall in love with the Yakuza series. Yakuza 0 is a game I'm sure many are aware of at this point. Released in 2015 in Japan and 2017 to the West, it's commonly seen as one of, if not the best game in the series. After being it for the first time, I could definitely agree. Of course, I was a fan of the series long before I beat this game. My first exposure was the Dame Dane meme trend in 2020 where characters were defaked to the singing of versions of Bakumatai from Yakuza 5 and 0. After that, I watched your buddy Tevin's challenge where he tried to beat Yakuza 0 without punching. From there, the rest is history. I purchased Yakuza 0 in June of the following year and played it just up until the 7th chapter before I just stopped. I'll elaborate more later, but all you need to know is I stuck with the series, watching countless meme videos, retrospectives, reviews, and so much more. I was and still am a big fan of the series, yet I never beat a single one of these games. For 2025, I decided to change up by starting as fresh as I can in Yakuza 0 and playing the game to completion or as much as I wanted to complete. Thankfully, I can proudly say that I finally began Yakuza 0 and done most of the side content, and boy was I missing out. To catalog my journey in a way, I'll be releasing these videos after each game I beat throughout the year and the next year if it takes me that long. They might be a bit messy in terms of general flow and editing, so I hope you don't mind too much. With all that said, why don't we get started with the video proper and talk about Kazuma Kiryu's and Goromatsu's first journey into the Japanese underworld. Oh man, where do I even start? Yakuza 0's combat system is, to put it bluntly, one of my favorite combat systems in any of the games I've ever played. Kiryu and Majima both have 4 fighting styles, totaling to 8 fighting styles to mess around with, so I'll try to be somewhat brief as to not take up too much time. The 8 styles can be broken down into 4 types: the all-rounder blue styles, the fast and aggressive pink styles, the slow and painful yellow styles, and the nostalgic legend styles. The blue styles, named Brawler and Thug respectively, can be used in almost any scenario and are the ones you start with. As a result, they play very similarly for the most part, with the main difference being the animations in my opinion. Kiryu's Brawler style is a lot more scrappy, highlighting his inexperience. Majima's Thug style, on the other hand, uses a lot of dirty tactics, with eye pokes and throws that can hurt multiple opponents. You can even fucking snap a dude's neck. Shit's crazy. Both serve as great start options, but the rest of the styles are much more different. Rush and Breaker are your pink styles, and man, they could not be more different. Besides not being able to grab, these two play very differently from each other. Rush allows you to dodge and weave through opponents as you lay punch after punch onto them. There's no heat, it's pretty pathetic, but once you reach the 3rd heat bar, the standard Thug stands no chance. It's also very useful against Mr. Shakedown, allowing you to avoid his easily telegraphed attacks with ease before punishing him for it. Breaker, to put it simply, activates flaming mode 99% of the time you use it. They just stand no chance against Machia's funky disco moves. I can't blame him though. Have you seen him? Nothing can stop the power of breakdancing. Next up, we've got Beast and Slugger, the 2 yellow styles. Much like Rush and Breaker, they fulfill similar roles while still feeling unique from each other. Beast functions as a great way to deal damage to Kiryu regardless of what you want to do. If there's an item on the ground, pick it up by attacking the enemy. Motorcycle nearby? Use it as a weapon. Enemy on the ground? No problem, just pick them up and lay the beat down on them. Despite how slow it is, Beast is one of the most versatile styles, and I love using it. In a way, it feels like an instant win butting like Breaker, but to a much lesser extent that I don't mind. Slugger is Machima's equivalent, and it's one of his 2 styles that involves weapons. Instead of using his fists, Machima decides to beat up people with a baseball bat. Shinada would be disappointed. Since you're stuck with a bat, you're no longer able to grab, not that it's much of a hindrance. There's plenty of combos and heat actions that you can pull off while using Slugger. And most certainly not least, you've got the legend styles. Unlike the rest, these weren't made for this game. Rather, they are the movesets Kiryu and Majima use in their other games in the series, which is quite cool. As such, you have to unlock them through the business side stories, which is a bit of time sink, but totally worth it. The Dragon of Dojima style is so much fun just because there's so much you can do with it. There are 3 rush combo options, 2 of which I find myself using very regularly. Each heat action is very useful and easily leads into more combos, which includes picking up enemies off the floor. All the options at your disposal really makes you feel like a god above mere mortals, which is exactly how it should make you feel. For Majima, the Mad Dog of Shimano style grants you the ability to use his dagger for the first time in the series, something I'm sure longtime fans appreciated when Zero first came out. Like Slugger, you can't put the dagger away, but why would you though, when you can dash your way through foes with ease? Without any upgrades, you don't deal much damage, but I didn't mind. After all, it has one of the best heat actions in the entire game. Thank God they included these 2 styles, otherwise I don't think I would have had as much fun as I did without them. Number 8, Breaker. Like I said, I believe Breaker makes the game too easy, and so I tend to stay away from it most of the time. Number 7, Rush. Fun to use, but unfortunately falls flat compared to the rest of Kiryu's styles. Number 6, Slugger. Solid style, just doesn't gel with me as well as the rest of the ones in the game. Number 5, Mad Dog. A nice addition to round out Majima while not being that overpowered. The counter did help me a lot against Joey Mom though, more on him later. Number 4, Thug. Sorry Majima fans, but his styles just didn't hold up as well as Kiryu's. Regardless, Thug's animations and the number of options available allow it to stand out as the best Majima style in the game. Number 3, Beast. The amount of things you can do against bosses and grunts alike really makes Beast so fun to use. Number 2, Brawler. I like it for similar reasons to Beast, even though you can't pick up enemies off the floor, but being able to use a prototype Tiger Jump on enemies puts it above. Number 1, Dragon. A combination of Brawler and Beast in terms of what you can do. No wonder it ended up being first place on my list. It's just so damn fun to use. Overall, the styles are a great feature that opens up the door for many different playstyles and combo opportunities. Without them, I don't think Yakuza 0 would be as memorable as it is. But what use do the styles have if there wasn't a story mode to beat up some iconic characters in? Yakuza 0 centers on Kazuma Kiryu and Goro Majima as they navigate their ex-Yakuza lives while trying to uncover the mystery behind an empty lot that so many Yakuza are after. Encountering a wide range of wacky characters, they slowly but surely get dragged back into the life they left behind as they get closer to the truth. Despite their similar experiences, they both walk different paths to reach the end of their respective journeys. Kiryu learns what it means to be Yakuza and that the weight of his actions affect those around him, eventually causing him to find his place in the world through his own determination as a soon-to-be legendary dragon. Meanwhile, Majima breaks free of the chains that bind him and discovers how to live life on his own terms for the people he meets along the ride, ultimately becoming the unpredictable mad dog he's known for today. To make this more palatable and flow better for your viewing experience, I'll start off with our 2 protagonists and then focus on the characters relevant to Kiryu, the characters relevant to Majima, ending off with the characters that have a major impact on both sides of the story. Kazuma Kiryu is our main protagonist and only recently got involved in the criminal underworld. As such, he's hot-headed and inexperienced, accidentally shooting himself in the foot through his own actions. Best example of this rashness is undeniably his decision to leave the Dojima family and become a citizen in order to clear his name. While smart on paper, all it did was put Kazuma, Kiryu's father figure, in more danger since he was now the only person that could be punished for it now that Kiryu was no longer part of the family. Nevertheless, with the help of Tachibana and Nishiki, the dragon inside of him starts to emerge over the course of the story, fights through countless opponents, namely Kuze, over the course of the story, strengthening his resolve to stand up each time he gets knocked down. One of the main traits of Kiryu that gets tested, for the first of many times, is his lone wolf nature. Up until the halfway point, Kiryu tries to handle his problems all by himself, usually with his fist. While this works out for the most part, there are certain points where he would have died without the help of his allies. He comes to realize this during the third Kuze fight once Tachibana comes to his rescue, lamenting how he had so many people looking after him when he thought he was doing everything on his own. Though this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as our friends are what push us to grow and become stronger. In nearly every major battle after this point, Kiryu fights alongside his allies to ensure they succeed. All this culminates in the final battle with Shibusawa, testing him on his convictions. After overcoming him, Kiryu is mere seconds away from killing Shibusawa right then and there, before Nishiki stops him. If he did it, then it was very likely that Kiryu would become one of the very villains he fought against. Only through the bonds he forged was he able to escape that path. Despite all the pain and suffering the Dojima family inflicted onto Kiryu, he still willingly chose to rejoin the family after everything was over, proving his resolve to do what he thought was right as a legendary dragon. Goro Majima, on the other hand, starts off in a much worse place than Kiryu. Trapped in Sultan Bori with spies watching him on every corner, it's evident just how miserable he is. To make matters worse, he expects his old brother, Taiga Saejima, to one day show up and kill him for abandoning him, even though that was through no fault of his own. All this starts to change when Sagawa offers him the chance to rejoin the Yakuza if he murders a Makoto Makimura. Yet when he learns her true identity, he quickly becomes her protector, secretly falling in love with her in the process. Along the way, he endures many obstacles in the path of earning his freedom. Hell, the whole reason why he's doing this gets called into question when he realizes his boss Shimano knew he was never going to kill Makoto in the first place. Through it all, the one thing that keeps him going is his desire to keep Makoto safe. Even once he fails and she falls into a coma, Majima rushes to the Dojima office to ensure he suffers for his crimes. A man with nothing to lose becomes one of the most dangerous men in the world. Something clearly seen once he takes out everyone in Dojima HQ all by himself. Similar to Kiryu, he almost goes through with murdering the man who shot her in Dojima himself, only stopping when Sarah reminds him of the burden this would put on her. Majima quickly rises back into power and in a more prominent position than before now that he has regained Shimano's trust. Only this time, he's now able to do things the way he wants to do it, how he wants to do it, without people like Sagawa interfering. He even gets a chance to reunite with Makoto, but throws it away for his safety. After all, an innocent woman like her has no place in the life of a mad dog. Daisaku Kuze serves as one of Kiryu's main opponents, fighting him 5 times over the course of the story. Each time he gets knocked back down, he gets right back up, ready for more whether or not he has to give up a pinky first. His tattoo depicts Enma, a Japanese entity known for being the judge of the underworld. A fitting tattoo, seeing as Kusei judges Kiryu for being a punk undeserving of his position. He's essentially the embodiment of the old school Yakuza, dedicated to their honor regardless of what life throws at them. After each subsequent duel, he starts to see Kiryu for the honor-bound man he truly is, earning him his respect. By their final encounter, he knows just how powerful the rookie has become, blaming himself and the other lieutenants for unleashing the dragon he'll become. Honestly, I find him a bit overrated, but still a very well-made character that I respect. Hiroki Awano is a vastly different man from Kusei and prefers a life of leisure. Instead of directly fighting Kiryu, he uses threats and other people to try to get his way, failing regardless. On his back is Momotaro, a popular Japanese folklore character. Some versions of the legend, the hero becomes lazy after rising to the top and vanquishing his enemies, slipping Awano copies to a T. Later on, we get to see how strong Awano truly is. Perhaps he could have potentially rivaled or even overwhelmed Kiryu, but he never tries to. Despite having the strength to reach the top, he never attempts to out of a preconceived notion that he doesn't have the determination to do it. Strangely, he does fight Majima in the last chapter. This choice might seem weird, with the two only sharing one seed before this, but it becomes more obvious when you look at the two's lifestyles. Majima is a slave to the nightlife industry, forced to do work and make money for the benefit of others above him. Awano is one of the people who would indulge in the pleasures offered by Majima's work. It's a no-brainer that the two would clash. In turn, Awano starts to reflect on his life up to this point, envying Majima's will. His journey concludes with him sacrificing his life to save Majima from Nagui, an impulsive action driven by his newfound honor. Awano is definitely my favorite lieutenant out of the 3 and an amazing character. Keiji Shibusawa is the last of the lieutenants, and most like Kiryu for multiple reasons. Up until the halfway point, he's mainly in the background, only having a notable role in this introductory scene that he shares with his partners. When he does start taking prominence, he quickly gets exactly what he wants, being the person to grant Dojima access to the lot. You come to learn that he seeks to carve out a name for himself and establish his own legacy no matter the cost. Much like Kiryu, his tattoos of a dragon, his Haryu dragon to be exact. Unlike Kiryu, his dragon only represents one part of the world, the East. With the way their tattoos are positioned, it seems like a battle between Kiryu and Shibusawa was fated to happen. Even so, it was never going to be a fair fight. Kiryu's dragon, or you, is the center of all things. Shibusawa was mistaken in believing he could ever stand a chance against the future dragon of Dojima. That's all you get on Kiryu's, Nishiki's, and Majima's tattoos, as I feel like it's better if I talk about them during the games they first appeared. Stay tuned for when I eventually cover Kiwami 1 and Kiwami 2. Anyways, Akira Nishikiyama is Kiryu's oath brother and closest confidant during the entire story. Despite being more in tune with your typical Yakuza, he still helps his brother with whatever he needs, even if it means picking out a new suit for him. Their relationship is put to the test once the Dojima family starts hunting Kiryu, with Nishiki going so far as to consider mercing Kiryu to prevent him from receiving a worse fate. It persists though, with Nishiki betraying the rest of the Dojima family to help Kiryu do what's right and protect Makoto. Without his help, Kiryu wouldn't have gone as far as he did. Also, just to briefly mention them, Osamu Kashiwagi and Reina serve similar roles as allies to Kiryu, helping him as the story progresses. Okay, hope that satisfies their fans. Please don't execute me. Jun Oda is an interesting character, going from enemy to ally back to enemy again. As Tachibana's right-hand man, he's typically seen helping him out regardless of the situation. Through dialogue told to us by a friend of theirs as well as Oda himself, it becomes somewhat clear that Oda just might have some feelings for his boss. That doesn't stop him from being a backstabbing traitor the second he realizes Tachibana will learn that he sold his sister into slavery. Even after he heroically volunteers to sacrifice himself to let Makoto and Kiryu escape, to reveal that he is the reason why Shibusawa found them in the first place. Oda is truly a despicable and desperate man, a polar opposite to future protagonist Shun Akiyama, who he bears some resemblance to. Great character. On the contrary, Tetsu Tachibana sticks by Kiryu's side until the very end. Initially, he comes off as a cutthroat businessman who uses others to further his own agenda. He even admits this himself. Yet by meeting Kiryu, he's able to see an example of a true man who follows his gut to do what's right, no questions asked. This effect drives him to willingly go with Lao Gui to ensure he spares Kiryu's life. While this gamble cost him his life, he does so with a smile, becoming the first of many people to die in the events surrounding Kazuma Kiryu. When Hai Li is first seen protecting Makoto by fighting off Majima, rightfully assuming he was there to kill her. Over time, the two men form a connection over their shared desire to ensure her safety. Ironically, Li bears a striking resemblance to Taiga Saejima, likely to emphasize their similar relationships with Majima. But as quickly as he's introduced, he's taken away, blown up by his own car as he tries to take away Makoto from the Yakuza. A tragic ending for a somewhat noble character. Homare Nishitani can be best described in one word: mad. He is a living embodiment of chaos, doing whatever he pleases without a second thought. Despite his outward appearance, he's a calculating man and would have found Makoto first if not for Majima's interference, bypassed the customer's king policy he follows. Even more surprising, Nishitani has a code of honor, murdering the killer of his uncle's daughter after he got away with no punishment. He takes a strong interest in Majima once their first fight concludes, offering to help him rescue Makoto. If he actually tagged along for that journey, I fully believed he would have let Majima take her even though that went against the job given to him. Shame it was never meant to be. At least his legacy lives on through Majima. Tsukasa Sagawa is the most consistent pain in Majima's ass, keeping tabs on him until the very end of the game. Unlike most of the other characters mentioned, you never actually fight him. You instead taunts and bullies Majima, holding over his head the fact that he can't do anything about it. While he may just seem like a snarky asshole, he's probably my favorite villain in the entire game. I can't tell if it's his monologue about his pet bird or his strained relationship with his oath brother, Shimano, but I love him. To top it all off, he goes out like a badass, embracing the fact that he'll die like a champ. Hope the pits of hell are comfortable enough for you, Sagawa. While Lao Gui may be the one who framed Kiryu, there's a reason why he fights Majima. The best assassin in all of Asia, he does his jobs without any questions efficiently and discreetly. He might be more of a plot device than a character, but that doesn't matter. His true purpose is to foreshadow what Majima can become if he isn't careful. An agile assassin with no regard for the well-being of others, wearing a sadistic-ass smile. He fits the role perfectly. Futoshi Shimano is the former boss of Majima and oath brother to Sagawa. He may only have 3 scenes, but he makes each of them count. All of them highlight how much of a tactical mastermind he is. Manipulating both of the people mentioned prior, the patriarch is inches away from becoming the next chairman, only stopped by the actions of someone he couldn't predict, Kiryu. Instead of complaining, he notices the writing on the wall and buys his time for his next attempt. I look forward to seeing what he ends up doing in Yakuza Kiwami. Makoto Makimura is the most important character in the story, being the owner of the empty lot that Dojima, Shimano, and Kazuma are all after. Starting off as a blind girl unaware of the danger she's in, She's immediately set up to be just a damsel in distress for Majima to save. She evolves past this though, starting off by stabbing Oda to free herself, eventually confronting Dojima himself after his lieutenants accidentally kill her brother, Tachibana, moments before their fateful reunion. Newfound independence comes at a cost though, with Lao Gui putting her into a coma. Ironically, this results in Kiryu and Majima swapping their roles for their final confrontations, with Kiryu heading to face off against Shibusawa in order to save Makoto, and Majima facing off against the man who trained Kiryu in order to get revenge for her. The latter even falls in love with Makoto, even though she doesn't know who he is as a result of her blindness. However, he lets her go for her sake. As a final goodbye, he secretly returns her watch in the empty lot, letting her know her savior's still out there. Sohei Dojima is the main antagonist of the game, posing both Kiryu and Majima on their individual journeys. You might think that he's one of the most physically capable characters, but he's actually the biggest coward of them all. Using all of his subordinates to do his dirty work for him, he sits comfortably in his office as he waits for the empty lot to eventually fall in his lap. Yet his actions awaken the dragon and demon inside of Kiryu and Majima respectively, spelling his downfall. At the time Tojo chairman Miyahara declares his replacement, Dojima has lost everything and no longer has a meaningful legacy left to leave. Masaru Sera is the president of the Nigu Consortium, a black ops group in the Tojo clan that does the dirty work no one else wants to. Despite the description, he actually helps out Majima and Kiryu a lot throughout the story, being one of the major players in protecting Makoto. Eventually, he reveals that Kazuma planned for him to become the third chairman of Kiryu. A month later, that's exactly what happens. Last and most certainly not least, the legendary Shintaro Kazuma is propped up by so many people throughout the story as a masterful tactician bar none. He lives up to this, somehow masterminding the entire plan Tachibana and Sera follow while stuck in prison. And it fucking works. In his only non-flashback appearance, Kiryu visits him in prison to let him know that he's rejoining the Yakuza. With his approval, Kiryu becomes a member of the Dojima family again. Wow, that took forever. I promise these next sections will be much shorter as they not take too long. Now, let's move on. As I mentioned before, in order to unlock the Dragon of Dojima and Mad Dog of Shimano styles, you need to complete the business minigames for the respective character. What you do for each business is different for the character, but both follow the exact same plot structure. 5 corrupt businessmen are trying to take over the city and you must go against them by taking over their areas and challenging them to a fight, the secret 6th person controlling the 5 in the shadows. For Kiryu, he has to take in the 5 billionaires and use his real estate skills to purchase buildings in Kamurocho, eventually fight them once he has claimed enough of it. It's fairly bare bones, and mostly requires you to wait around for a timer to finish so you can claim the money and spend it on either upgrades or more properties. After you reach 60%, you'll face off against the king of the area in some kind of mini-game, fighting against them as you would expect once you reach 90% to claim all of their territory. I wish it could be more involved, especially because they never disrupt your businesses like the tutorial says, only had it happen once to me in the very last area. At least the Dragon of Dojima style is a cool reward. Majima's business story requires him to take on the 5 stars by outperforming their cabaret clubs. To do this, you must recruit hostesses to work in your club, play dress up with 6 platinum hostesses, and go on mini dates with them to level them up. Afterwards, you manage the club, making sure the guests' needs are satisfied while also correctly answering their orders. Once you reach enough fans in a star's area, they challenge you to see who can make the most amount of money in one shift. Sounds simple, right? Remember how earlier in this video I mentioned that I suddenly stopped playing during the 7th chapter? This side story was why. I wanted to unlock the lesser stuff from Majima, but thought that the cabaret club would take so long that I just decided not to do it and didn't touch the game. This time around, I gave it a shot and I'm glad I did. It may have extended my time significantly, but it only meant I had more time to spend playing an amazing game. Now you may be wondering, how do you recruit people to work for the real estate business / hostess club? It's very easy, so why don't I show you in the next part of the video. Substories are one of the most iconic parts of a Yakuza game. They can be funny, emotional, weirdly horny, and more all at the exact same time. With over 100 to do in this game, they're sure going to keep you busy. In Yakuza 0, a lot of Substories references games that came out prior. For example, Daigo, Ryuji, Shinji, Komeki, and Ogita are all cameo appearances in at least one substory, really making this game feel like an origin story without giving these characters an actual role in said story. In another one, a fortune teller predicts the events that will transpire in Kiryu's life, going so far as to mention what he's up to during Yakuza 5, which takes place 24 years later. She must be really good at her job to do that. Some of my favorites have to be the love story between an immigrant who mixes up her B's, P's, and V's and her pimp centered around pizza, training a dominatrix how to be good at her job, the entire subplot centered around pocket circuit racing, Macha accidentally dooming Japan's economy by suggesting how to implement taxes, helping a street performer sneak off to use the bathroom unnoticed, and infiltrating a cult to save a girl before it's too late. However, my main reason for bringing this up isn't just to talk about the substories themselves. No, I actually want to mention what happens when you complete all of them. After you complete all the substories for a character, they receive a suspicious message on their pager asking them to come to a bullfighting arena. They oblige, encountering a member of the Amon clan. The Amon clan are infamous for being extremely tough super bosses that can demolish you if you aren't careful enough and having insanely high health bars. I have a personal headcanon for if these fights happen before or after the final boss, so they do canonically happen, so I'll let you know what I think once we reach their fights in each game. For Zero, I believe it happens after the story ends, seeing that the Amon clan would know Kiryu and Majima were the opponents after seeing them succeed against the Dojima family. Majima faces off against Joemon, the main member of the clan. He starts off the fight by using the Dragon of Dojima style, switching to the Mad Dog style after half of his health is depleted. The fight is relatively easy if you use the Mad Dog counter on him, taking away around a bar or so of health each time you pull it off successfully. Just don't get too cocky or else Joe will get too many hits in, forcing you to try again. Kiryu duels Soemon, the eldest member that is only seen in this game. His fight is much harder than Joe's, with him wielding a cannon that can stun and even insta-kill you if you aren't careful enough. I managed to beat him by abusing grab and dragon's grab rush combos. Once you get to his second phase, you'll spawn a helicopter that drops furniture as well as a golden ball that temporarily grants invincibility. This makes the fight a joke, allowing you to combo so without him being able to do anything. All in all, solid fights that do generally prove to be a decent challenge, despite what I have said. Though before I finish, I have one last thing to talk about. The Coliseum and Climax battles are both tests of the combat skills you've learned throughout the game, though they serve two completely different purposes. The Coliseum is the main way you can fight challenging opponents after being the main story. Boasting 35 fighters in 12 different tournaments, it'll definitely take you some time if you want to unlock and fight all of them as both characters. By the end of it, you'll be able to fight David Diablo, a super boss using the moveset of Saejima with super armor on most of his attacks. He's a difficult fight, but I eventually overcame him. I wouldn't say it's worth it for most people, as I found myself grinding one specific tournament to unlock the rest after a certain point. But if you have hours to waste, then go for it. Climax battles are another one of the game's main challenge modes outside of the main story, with you unlocking more of them the further you progress in it. Unlike everything else, you access them in the main menu, getting shown 3 different types of battles: Proving Grounds, Melee, and Millionaire. Some of these battles are pieces of cake, while others feel like they are made to piss people off. Take Proving Grounds 8 for example. Majima switches his style every couple of seconds as his health slowly drains over time. It's very RNG dependent, leaving your victory up to if you get Thug or Slugger for the 6th time in a row. These Proving Grounds 2 and Melee Battle 5 compensate for this by taking little effort to beat within the time frame. After you complete the first 3 types, you unlock Ultimate Battles, a boss rush including all the foes you face throughout the story. At first, these matches prove to be some of the toughest fights you'll face, but they quickly evolve into using Beast or Breaker until the boss goes down. I do find it pretty funny that Ultimate Battle 4 has you fight Kuze, 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 Kuze plus friends, and Kuze back-to-back with no breaks. As a package deal with the rest of the game, the Climax battles are a nice little build to wrap up your experience with Yakuza 0. Yakuza 0 is truly like no other game that I've played up to this point in my life. You can do practically anything from singing karaoke to managing a cabaret club to looking for a guy's stolen pants. All of this side content is paired alongside a story rich with complex characters that I could talk about for hours if I didn't want to keep this video at a reasonable length. The bubble era was a perfect time period to set a prequel in the Yakuza series, as the aftermath perfectly mirrors what happens in future games. Much like how Japan's economy was at an all-time high, the Tojo clan was at a peak that it could never recreate. Business was booming thanks to powerful leaders like Miyahara and Kazuma directing the clan towards newfound heights. But all good things must come to an end. As the bubble finally popped, the Tojo clan suffered as a result. Each subsequent game showed just how far gone it was from its golden era, with members that could not compare to the leaders from yesteryears, but that's a topic for another time. Instead, I'll close this out with what Yakuza 0 has taught me. Make the most out of the time you have on your own terms, not letting anyone get in the way as you navigate your place through life. After all, you only live once.
Yo. Kiryu-chan!
Thank you to anyone who's gone this far into the video. This is my first time making a video of this type, so if you have any recommendations of what I can do to improve or what I already did well, drop it down in the comments. Though, seeing as this is a very small channel that I haven't uploaded on in 3 years, I doubt it will get any. Regardless, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, night, or whatever, and I'll catch you on my next video on Yakuza Kiwami. Take care.